friends, Chris here, CaribbeanPot.com. Welcome to my kitchen. You like a little Italian, eh? Italia, I'm multilingual like that. Today we're doing a non-traditional, non-Caribbean recipe. We're going Italian today. I know it doesn't fit within the theme of the whole thing we're doing here on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, all of that. But you say what? After posting pics on Facebook, there were a lot of requests for this recipe. Chris, show me how to make that pasta sauce now. And that is exactly what we're doing. I have my portion all set out here. That is exactly what we're doing today. The ultimate meat sauce. We're making enough so we can freeze. I usually do this so when my daughters want that nice pasta sauce on an evening they don't feel like cooking, they just thaw those out and they boil up their pasta. Additionally, since we're sticking to the whole pasta thing, I've got a cookbook here to give away. One lucky viewer will win this book. Look at that now. But you gotta stay tuned at the end. Yep, I'm making all the watch it. At the end of the video to find out how you can win this cookbook. Chris here, CaribbeanPot.com. Like I said, always a pleasure to have you guys here in the kitchen with me. Let's get cooking this wicked ultimate pasta sauce. I've got a big deep pot. This is a nice heavy bottom pot because this is gonna simmer for a long time, so you need a heavy bottom pot so it doesn't stick or burn on the bottom. And I have here a combination. It's about 1.5 pounds combination. In total it's about 1.5 pounds of ground beef, ground veal, and ground pork. And what I've done is I've gone ahead and really cooked that down. You can see there's a little bit of moisture on the bottom and oil on the bottom. If you have a lot of oil, be sure to drain some of that out. And I like sort of knocking down on it so you get nice crumbly pieces of that meat, nothing too big and chunky. I hate that in good sauce. Next up, I'm going to go in with a large onion that I diced up. My heat is on low at this point because all I'm doing here now is sweating this onion down to get a ton of flavor out of it. And a ton of diced garlic. That garlic is gonna can't have a good pasta sauce, meat sauce without garlic in there. I'm just gonna mix that up, and with the same remaining fat from all that ground meat, that's gonna and it's already smelling wicked in the kitchen. That's just gonna cook everything down low heat and let that go for about 4 minutes, 4 or 5 minutes. As that garlic and that onion sweat and come nice and translucent and release all those flavors, you want to go in with some black pepper. And I like using fresh ground black pepper. And here's where I'm going to add my dry herbs. Oregano. I'm just like moving it around a bit in my hand before I dump it all in there. Some basil, and if you've got fresh basil, by all means go ahead with that fresh basil. Play a bad self. And I'm just going to move that around now just to sort of toast it and really bring out all those flavors of those herbs. Next up, I'm going to go in with some diced bell pepper, and usually it's green bell peppers or sweet peppers that I use in here, but just so happened I had half of a red bell pepper as well as half of a yellow bell pepper. And again, my heat is still on low. Just want to weaken everything up here. I'm going to go in with some sea salt at this point. And it may seem like a lot of salt, but remember we're going to be using a lot of tomato sauce in this, so it will help balance off the sort of sourness or tartness of it. And I've got here about 2 cups of cremini mushrooms, which I sliced up. And this is where I'm going to turn my heat up now to like a medium. Give this a stir and let that continue cooking for about 3 or 4 minutes. It's now time to start adding the tomato element to this. And I've got here tomato paste. And this is the thick, pure paste. It may seem like a lot, but remember I am cooking this to freeze. So I have, well, not myself, but my daughters have this in the freezer whenever they feel like having pasta. Just move that around there and let that go for another few minutes. The sweetness of that tomato is going to come out the more we allow this to cook without adding any liquid in here. Now we're going to go in with some passata, which is pretty much strained tomato, well, pureed tomato. And you're probably going to need about 4 cups of that, but remember, you will need a pretty large pot to bring all of this together. Give that a stir. And I have here some diced tomato and herbs. 2 cans of that. And as you can see, it's really filling up now. Another key ingredient, Bayleaf. These are tiny, so I'm going to go in with a couple of these. Well, we'll hit them 3 for good measure. Give that a good stir and bring it up to a boil. To help balance off the sort of acid from using all of this tomato, remember we went in with a fair amount of salt in there. My little trick is going in with a bit of brown sugar. Trust me on this. Add brown sugar, and I know a lot of my Italian friends and people who cook Italian food is probably thinking, what kind of madness is Chris making here? I assure you, this is going to be the best meat sauce, the ultimate meat sauce you will ever have. I had some hot Italian sausage frying in a pan on the side there. You probably heard the sizzle going on earlier. And this is where I'm going to get that little heat element from, because these are spicy sausages which will give it that nice little kick. 2 more ingredients to go in here before we allow this to come up to a boil and let it simmer, but gently simmer and bubble away. You will need a couple hours, so give yourself enough time. I've got here some heavy cream. Again, I'm concerned about all that tartness, all that acid from that tomato. It will help to mellow everything together. And I've got here a nice whack of chopped parsley. Give that a good stir. You really got to work that in there and bring it up. Ooh, some parsley looking to escape. Bring that up to a boil, and then you need to move it to a smaller, slower burner and let that go for a couple hours. It's come up to a boil now, so what I've done is I've moved it, and do excuse the dirty stove, but I've moved it to the back of the stove so it's out of the way. You will require some patience, and you will be required to clean up your stove after. It can get a bit messy when you're making such a big pot of sauce. All I'm going to do now, put the lid on there, turn my heat down, and let that gently simmer for a couple hours at least. The longer you leave it, the more flavor you're going to get out of it. It's been going for about 2.5 hours. As I said, the longer you can keep it going, the better. Near the end here, you can add some more cream if you want. Go in with some Parmesan cheese, some fresh basil. At the very end, you can go in with some freshly chopped basil in there. Ay, 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 that thing will be nice. But there it is, guys. The ultimate Italian meat sauce for pasta. Boy, oh boy. And there's a Trini doing it too, straight out of the Caribbean. Chris here, CaribbeanPot.com. Let me show you the texture. Just look at that. And them lovely pieces of Italian sausage and everything in there. What I usually do, small containers in the freezer. When the kids are ready for it, they go at it. Always a pleasure to have you guys here in the kitchen with me. Do give it a try.